Hi, my name is Jeremy Webb. I'm Chair of the Renewable Energy Working Group under the Expert Group on Resource Management. I'm going to talk to you today about renewable energy milestones for business and for government. Why? It's all about overcoming barriers to scaling up renewable energy. Let's talk about 2020. We can do better, a lot better. Together, the group of experts on renewable energy and Expert Group on Resource Management have a common purpose: fulfilling the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. It's going to take all of us to fulfill the SDGs, and we need to do things differently. With all the challenges we face, you might be thinking, why do people spend countless hours volunteering to work on resource classification standards? Why? Because they can change the world. Now, we could tell you all about project milestones and the United Nations Framework Classification for Resources, the UNFC. Yeah, that would be exciting. Or we could share some stories instead. We'll start with an ancient fairy tale about a mirror, then dive deep into the UNFC. We ask who could use UNFC milestones, and share a fairy tale about risks and opportunities. Lastly, we will discuss SDG 7, affordable clean energy, and share a story about our future. So, who wants to know more about milestones and magic mirrors? An ancient fairy tale. In the fairy tale of Snow White, the Queen asks a magic mirror who is the most attractive of them all, until one day the mirror says, Snow White. The Queen orders a huntsman to kill her stepdaughter. Of course, Snow White escaped into the forest. Now imagine we're trying to find out which renewable energy project is most attractive. It would be ideal to have something like the magic mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, which resource is the most attractive of them all? Now imagine you're a policymaker and you want to know which resources have the most potential. We could use traditional renewable energy resource classification schemes, starting with the theoretical resource potential, but not all of this energy can be used. The technical potential accounts for system, topographic, and land use constraints. The economic potential considers technology costs and revenues. And the market potential considers policies and regulations, as well as market conditions, investors, and competing energy sources. The UNFC is very similar to this classification scheme. But instead of working from the top down, the UNFC starts with the project. So let's take a closer look at the project. We have the sun, irradiation onto a project site. Irradiation is energy from the sun that reaches the Earth's surface. We have technology and a reference point. The reference point is the place where quantities and values are measured. This can include production, revenues, resources, and project valuations. For each of these estimates, there is a degree of confidence from low to high. Another important factor is the technical feasibility of a project. And we need to consider socioeconomic and environmental viability. We can assess these things for solar projects, hydro projects, wind, geothermal, bioenergy, and other energy projects. Now let us simplify this. We can condense socioeconomic viability and technical feasibility into project viability. Project viability includes a series of project milestones, from project development being unclarified to the project being on production. Lastly, we can tabulate project data by the milestones reached. So there we have the UNFC. It's like a magic mirror made of project milestones that can be used to tabulate resource estimates and other data. So, who could use the UNFC? Or do you want another story? Another ancient fairy tale. You might already know the story of Jack and the beanstalk. Young Jack is asked to sell his mother's cow, but instead exchanges it for some magic beans from a stranger. Of course, the beans grew into a huge beanstalk, reaching the kingdom of a giant in the clouds. Well, I want to focus on the transaction between the stranger and Jack, and think of the beans as being a project. We have the project developer, the investor, the finance, and of course the regulator. The investor thinks, I need more information. Me too, a lot more information. Meanwhile, the project developer is thinking about project milestones related to socioeconomic viability, technical feasibility, and the degree of confidence around project estimates. In hindsight, wouldn't it have been nice if Jack had better information on project risks and project potentials? Geothermal, bioenergy, solar, wind, hydromarine, renewable energy projects are real opportunities that can help fulfill SDG 7, affordable clean energy. But according to the United Nations, 789 million people lack electricity. Efforts need scaling up on sustainable energy. Meanwhile, only 17% of total energy consumption is from renewable sources. Stepped up efforts in renewable energy are needed. Given the scale of investment needed to fulfill SDG 7 while limiting climate change, it's essential that transaction costs are limited and risks are clear. So now is a good time for a story about our future. A story about our future. To fulfill the SDGs, it's going to take a lot of people. This includes your project developer, equity investor, portfolio manager, lender, regulator, and policymakers. They all need information on the project. Our project developer needs to monitor progress. This includes socioeconomic viability, for example, permits and market conditions, as well as technical feasibility, for example, the reliability of technologies being used. To monitor progress, our project developer uses project milestones, highlighting project maturity. For the project, we also have annual production estimates and resource estimates, where resources are the total production over the lifespan of the project. For each of these estimates, there's a degree of confidence from low to high. For example, measured using probability of exceedances of 90%, 50%, or 10%. Our equity investor needs to know project maturity and typically wants to know the P50, i.e. medium resource estimate. Our portfolio manager needs to know project maturity and how this project fits into their portfolio of projects. It's important to have new projects coming through the project pipeline. Our lender needs to know project maturity and typically wants to know the P90, i.e. high confidence resource estimate. Our regulator monitors investments, creates rules, including rules on reporting, for example, reporting to shareholders and stock exchanges, or climate-related financial disclosures. Our policymakers need to understand resource potentials. This informs policy decisions, for example, which resources and developments to prioritise. Policymakers are very interested in resource development, including short-term considerations regarding approvals and production, as well as long-term considerations regarding other potential resources for development. Harmonised information is essential. The UNFC can help businesses and governments harmonise existing reporting practices. So while billions of dollars have been invested in renewable energy, and billions more will be invested with or without the UNFC reduces the risk of expensive miscommunications, while limiting transaction costs. By providing project milestones, highlighting project maturities and risks. The United Nations Framework Classification for Resources, addressing socioeconomic viability, technical feasibility, and degrees of confidence for resources and other estimates, addressing project milestones, project maturity, project portfolios, project pipelines, resource reporting, climate-related financial disclosures, and resources development for all types of renewable energy. So, tell me about the socioeconomic viability, technical feasibility, and project maturity. Also, I want to know the degree of confidence you have on these resource estimates. We need the UNFC. Lastly, we need leaders like you to apply the UNFC in your projects, processes and policies. So contact us if you want to test the UNFC or make a case study. To find out more information, check out our webpage or email us. This presentation was made by the Tiaki Institute.